What difference does Christianity make? The eloquence of his Christian life was credited with changing England.
D. James Kennedy Ministries presents Truths That Transform.
Today on Truths That Transform, we take a look at some exciting things happening in our nation's capital.
This is a place that only God could turn around.
And we take you inside a new initiative to put Christian leaders into the corridors of power.
This training has been one of the best decisions I made in deciding to run for public office.
Join us for a look at the need for true Christian statesmanship and what we're doing about it on today's Truths That Transform. Welcome to Truths That Transform, a production of D. James Kennedy Ministries, where we are standing for truth and defending your freedom. On today's program, we will show you some exciting things that are happening in our nation's capital, where the truth of Jesus Christ is being proclaimed and is influencing our government. And we will give you the opportunity to make your voice heard on the most pressing issues facing our nation today. As we begin, this ministry is active in the corridors of power in Washington, D.C., training, influencing, and honoring Christian leaders through our D. James Kennedy Center for Christian Statesmanship. Our own John Rabe takes a closer look and introduces us to the most recent recipient of our Distinguished Christian Statesman Award.
Good evening, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here this evening as we celebrate the 23rd Annual D. James Kennedy Center for Christian Statesmanship Award Dinner.
Each year, the D. James Kennedy Center for Christian Statesmanship honors a man or woman who has distinguished themselves in the political arena through outstanding service as a Christian statesman.
I am incredibly humbled to stand here and to receive this award.
Dr. Kennedy's vision, which we continue, is to honor and encourage true Christian statesmanship, which is sorely needed in America. Past recipients have included Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, Mike Pence, now the Vice President, John Ashcroft, who went on to become U.S. Attorney General, and Kay Coles James, who is now the President of the Heritage Foundation.
I am convinced that we need as a nation to continue to encourage our young people to know that freedom isn't free, that liberty comes at a price.
Interestingly, I think the terms Christian and statesman are widely misunderstood in our day. A Christian statesman, therefore, is someone whose commitment to Christ and love of country compels him or her to stand for truth and righteousness in government and to uphold those principles which exalt rather than debase the nation. The Honorable Senator Jim Inhofe as our 2018 Distinguished Christian Statesman.
Senator James Inhofe of Oklahoma has served in the U.S. Senate since 1994, where he has stood tirelessly for Christian principles in a place not known for them.
I look at the debt, the national debt, as a moral issue. They are taking away our right to charity, for example. The government is controlling where that is going instead of us making those decisions. There are a lot of missions around that we want to support and have been historically supporting. But you can't do that if the government's taking all of your money away.
For years, the senator has stood steadfast against climate change alarmism, opposing restrictive measures that would harm the economy and be ineffective. He sees that climate alarmism is about increasing the power of elites rather than fixing the weather.
There's this insatiable appetite in Hollywood by the elites to run everyone's life but their own. Look at Al Gore, good example. He has made He is now, they're saying he's probably the first environmental billionaire. He's made so much money off this thing because he's invested in all these technologies and these things that he's been promoting. His movies. I just now said on an interview that it's every assertion in his science fiction movie has been disproven now. But their lust is this whole idea that the environment is everything. They worship the environment, and it's a power base. And we're talking about millions and millions of money being spent in the political arena.
Senator Inhofe takes principled stands. For years, he rode a horse for the annual Tulsa Christmas parade. But then one year, they removed Christ from the celebration.
They quit calling it the Christmas parade. They call it the holiday parade. I said, I'm not riding this. And so I boycotted it. Now they're making a big issue in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that I'm refusing to ride, as I've done for decades, in the Christmas parade because they took Jesus out of the Christmas parade. And so if he goes, I go.
Thankfully, they finally put Christ back in Christmas in Tulsa, and Senator Inhofe participates once again. Through the D. James Kennedy Center for Christian Leadership Initiative, we're working to eventually equip hundreds more principled Christian statesmen to enter the public square for Christ.
Throughout the history of this great nation, God has raised up men and women to be Christian statesmen. Their moral strength and reliance on God's providential care guided this great nation through its founding and through the wars and turmoils that have followed.
For those of you that are engaged, that hope to be able to see this as a nation that lives one nation under God, thanks for engaging in the way that you engage.
And for the many Christians that I bump into that say, God's written off Washington, D.C., I just laugh and say, you ought to come and see what God's doing on this hill.
D. James Kennedy Ministries is standing for truth and defending your freedom, but we cannot do that without your generosity. With our new monthly automatic giving program, you can conveniently ensure that we are able to broadcast the gospel, train Christian leaders in Washington, D.C., defend religious freedom in court, and much more. Whether you can give $35, $50, or $100 a month or more through your credit card or bank account, your monthly donation will make an enormous impact for Christ, and it will entitle you to automatically receive our valuable monthly ministry resource. Contact us right away to join our convenient automatic monthly giving program and receive the powerful book, Make Your Life Count, as your first monthly resource. By God's grace and with your help, we will impact our nation and the world for Jesus Christ.
We congratulate Senator James Inhofe of Oklahoma on receiving the Distinguished Christian Statesman Award. And we pray that his tribe may increase as many more like him enter public service at all levels. We are training future Christian statesmen through our D. James Kennedy Center for Christian Leadership Initiative. Dr. Kennedy's daughter, Jennifer Kennedy Cassidy, joins me now. Jennifer, your dad believed that Christian statesmanship was essential for a free nation.
He sure did. And that's why he put his money where his mouth was and established the Center for Christian Statesmanship right on Capitol Hill. My dad knew that the source of America's greatness was her Christian foundation and heritage. And he also knew that it was being chipped away by those who had a different, less free, less righteous vision for our nation. Ultimately, only the gospel of Jesus Christ brings true liberty. As the scriptures say, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. You and I, who have been given the gospel and the truth, can have an outsized impact on the future direction of America with God's help. One of the great examples of this is William Wilberforce, who struck a decisive blow against the slave trade in England against unbelievable odds. My father, Dr. D. James Kennedy, shares more in this portion of his message, William Wilberforce, a true Christian statesman.
William Wilberforce, not a name that is a household name in America, but of course he was British. William Wilberforce was a remarkable man. He was blessed. His father left him a fortune. His uncle His grandfather left him a fortune. His uncle left him another one. He was one of the most wealthy people in England. He hobnobbed in his younger years with all of the greats. He was an intimate friend of the Prime Minister. He went to see John Newton because there was something that he was really concerned about, and that was slavery. And he thought Newton ought to know something about it since he had been a slave trader in his unconverted days. And he said, "Do not leave your position in Parliament. You would be deserting the calling that God has called you to." And so he decided to stay. And he decided also that he would find the greatest cause that he knew about, and he would give his life to that cause. And the cause he chose was the end of slavery in Great Britain. But there was hardly any part of English business that wasn't wrapped around slavery in some way or another. So what did he do? He decided he'd give a talk. He spent 2 years studying to give that talk. When he finally stood up in Parliament and spoke, and he was by this time probably the greatest speaker in Parliament, he spoke for 4.5 hours. He made his motion to end the slave trade in Great Britain. The motion was defeated, roundly defeated. Well, he did not give up. Came back the next year, gave another speech, another motion, defeated. Next year, defeated. The next year, defeated. He gave up the next year, came back the following year, and gave another speech, and another, 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 and another. Finally, the vote was positive, and the British slave trade ended. But that was only half of his goal. It was to end slavery in all of the British colonies. So he set himself to that. Again, 25 more years. Now he is an elderly man. There are still hundreds of thousands of slaves in British ownings. But he continued to pray and to work. As he grew older and older, he continued to persist. Every year a speech, every year another vote, every year defeat. Finally, he was unable to continue for health reasons. He retired to his home in London, and in that session, they had a great discussion of the subject. A motion was made to end slavery in all of the colonies of Great Britain around the world. The motion passed. There was a great outcry of joy among all of those that had worked with him for so long to end that, and they sent a runner to his home to tell him before he died that at last his great cause had been won. And the victory came, and of course he rejoiced in the Lord that this had happened, and in a lifetime of effort had succeeded. May I point out to you this: Great Britain ended slavery without a civil war. That was William Wilberforce, who changed the world.
William Wilberforce is a powerful example of how God can use one committed person to accomplish world-changing things. And it is in the spirit of that vision that we launched the D. James Kennedy Center for Christian Leadership to train a new generation like Wilberforce, equipping them to bring our nation back to its constitutional and biblical foundations. We are training them not only with a biblical worldview and a deep understanding of America's Constitution, but also with the ability to act practically and strategically to implement policy. Our own Dr. Jerry Newcomb has more.
When the gospel changes hearts and minds, then everything begins to change. And the same is true for Washington, D.C.
And for the many Christians that I bump into that say, God's written off Washington, D.C., I just laugh and say, you ought to come and see what God's doing on this hill.
The D. James Kennedy Center for Christian Leadership is training the next generation of leaders to stand for Christ.
Dr. Frank Wright, the president and CEO of D. James Kennedy Ministries, felt the need to train a new generation of Christian leaders, partly because he saw firsthand the disappointing results from the new Congress that began in 1995, with about 80% of them being professing Christians.
But I'll just tell you that looking at it 20 years later, they swept in like a wave breaking on the beach, and like waves tend to do, they ebbed back out into the ocean, and in some respects with little discernible impact.
June 26, 2015, gay marriage is now legal across the United States.
All right, the Washington Post, a move to defund Planned Parenthood of $500 million in federal funding came up short in the Senate.
We have got to say enough of the politics as usual, and we've got to send men and women here to Washington who are serious, aren't worried about re-election, aren't worried about preserving their majority. Rather, they're more concerned about preserving the nation.
Dr. Wright's vision for the Center for Christian Leadership became a reality in 2018 when the first class began the series of intense training sessions.
We're looking for people who have a heart after God's own heart, individuals who are willing to go and do whatever it takes to help change this country to where it should be.
This training has given me a practical look at what's happening in Washington. It's given me some understanding of the skills that I need to cultivate more in my life.
This training has been one of the best decisions I made in deciding to run for public office. It has helped form and shape my worldview. It has helped form and shape my understanding of the Constitution, of what our republic stands for, and the responsibility that we have as elected officials.
It's been very disappointing how many well-meaning Christians have gotten themselves elected and gotten there ill-equipped to do the job they've sought to fulfill. We're determined to change that.
It's one thing to be a Christian and feel that calling of God, but how much better if they're really equipped so that when they get there, people have put their faith in them, voting for them. When they get to office, they really know how to make a difference.
I found the training to be very helpful to the current office I'm holding, and it really gives you a holistic grasp of what we're facing in Washington, D.C., and what it will take to really turn things around.
We have looked at the landscape of leadership training and the kind of leadership training that's done, and we think there's an opportunity for us to do something unique and very impactful in our hope for the culture and for the future of America.
I really don't think there's anything else like this out there. It's the best of a lot of the leadership programs that I've been involved in the past.
So the most important thing I've learned from this training has been really a knowledge base, comprehensive economics, different philosophies that are influential on us today. The depth and the breadth of the knowledge that you get is different than any other program.
Dear friend, we are in the midst of a war of values, a war against God and His truth.
We believe that God's calling us to raise up another generation of leaders to go into the public policy arena and seek to attain the highest level of influence that they can attain and stand there for Christ.
I could not more highly recommend taking this course.
I think we could change this nation if people were learning what I've been having the opportunity to learn.
What we're doing here is not just an academic exercise. This is really preparation for a tough battle ahead. And I would totally recommend it to any conservative Christian leader who's considering any kind of leadership position at the local, state, and even at the federal level.
We believe right now that our nation is in a real crisis. We're in a battle for the very soul of this nation. If we don't do something soon to help turn it around, many changes are going to take place, so we won't recognize our nation. And we know that throughout the history of this country, God has raised up men and women to be Christian statesmen. It's our prayer that through this training program, He's going to raise up a new generation of Christian statesmen who can help return this nation to its historic Judeo-Christian roots.
As you have just seen, D. James Kennedy Ministries has been doing exciting things. Our leadership training in Washington, D.C., through our Kennedy Center for Christian Leadership, is one of the most important projects we've ever undertaken, and a new class is beginning soon. Through it, leaders are being equipped with a biblical and constitutional worldview and the practical tools to make a difference. And we will be producing and broadcasting programs this year on some of the most controversial and confusing issues of our time, such as the transgender phenomena, the assault on the First Amendment, and the encroachment of social Marxism into our national life. And friends, we welcome your input so we can determine which issues are most important to you. In a few weeks, the President will be delivering his State of the Union address, and we want your input on the spiritual state of the nation. We have put together a survey to find out what's most important to you, and we will be sharing the results with the President, the Vice President, and your congressional representative. Contact us right away to receive your Spiritual State of the Nation survey. Fill it out and return it to us as quickly as possible, and make your voice heard. Simply write to us at D. James Kennedy Ministries, Box 11154, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33339, or call toll-free 877-962-7677, or go online to djkm.org. And if you are able to give a generous donation to help us with the crucial work of this ministry, we will thank you by also sending you the brand new book just off the presses from our own Dr. Jerry Newcomb, called A New Birth of Freedom. In this concise book, which features a foreword from William J. Federer, Jerry looks at our current culture and shows the spiritual poverty underlying some of our biggest problems, and shows how a return to Christ and our Christian heritage can put us back on the right track. What America needs is a spiritual revival, and Jerry Newcomb shows us what that would look like as he addresses issues from gun control to the erosion of free speech to secular challenges to Jesus Christ while presenting biblical truth. Please contact us right away to get your Spiritual State of the Nation survey so that we can know which challenges facing America are most important to you, and so we can share those results with America's leaders. And please consider giving a generous donation to help us with the work of this ministry when you do. A New Birth of Freedom will be our thanks to you. It is expensive to produce and air quality Christian television programming, and we cannot do it without your help. Simply write to us at D. James Kennedy Ministries, Box 11154, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33339, or call toll-free 877-962-7677, or go online to djkm.org. Well, the shock troops of George Orwell's Newspeak have landed. The enlightened folks at Twitter recently announced that it will soon ban people who misgender others from their social media platform. What does that mean, you ask? Well, if a biological man decides that he instead wishes he were a woman, Twitter has deemed it impermissible to refer to him as him. Twitter also banned so-called dead naming, which means using the former name of someone who has decided to change their gender. So, for instance, calling Caitlyn Jenner Bruce can get you banned from Twitter, even if you're talking about him winning the Olympic decathlon way back in 1976. Of course, this is crazy, but make no mistake, this is crazy like a fox, because when you control language, you have your hand on an important lever of culture. That is why we're seeing an all-out assault on free speech, on social media, on college campuses, and in the public square. Change the way people speak, and eventually you will change the way they think. George Orwell, of course, captured this idea in his chilling novel 1984, in which newspeak was the language of the fictional state of Oceania. The language of newspeak contained the word black-white. This, said Orwell, showed a loyal willingness to say that black is white when party discipline demands this. But it means also the ability to believe that black is white, and more, to know that black is white, and to forget that one has ever believed the contrary. This demands a continuous alteration of the past, said Orwell. Writing just after the end of World War II, Orwell knew well the mindset of the totalitarians. Words and labels matter. They matter a great deal. God spoke the world into existence. He gave Adam the task of naming the animals in the garden. Jesus Christ is the living Word of God. Defending the truth component in the language we use is one of the most important battles we can fight today. And continuing in the legacy of our founder, Dr. D. James Kennedy, that is precisely what we plan to do in 2019. D. James Kennedy Ministries is standing for truth and defending your freedom. I'm Frank Wright. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Truths That Transform. We'll see you next time.
Next week on Truths That Transform.
And the one area of all our denominations and differences that we should, if we say we're Christians, agree upon is life.
No, the Bible is clear. It is a person, not a thing, that is in the womb. It is only by lies and deceptions and deceit that they are able to keep this ghastly thing going.
That's next week. Today's program is available on DVD for your gift to this ministry of any amount. Please call, write, or log on to our website today. This has been a production of D. James Kennedy Ministries.